Ever wonder what it was like to walk the streets of New York in the early 1900s? We've got a time machine for you, restored, colorized footage that'll drop you right in the heart of Manhattan. See the fashion, hear the bustle, and feel the energy of the Big Apple's golden age. If you like this video, leave a comment below and let me know if you'd be interested in another part with even more colorized videos. This originally black and white film from 1911 was shot by a Swedish film crew who were traveling the world to capture glimpses of famous places. They called it A Trip Through New York City. But with today's technology, we have this awesome colorful video. Using some smart artificial intelligence and neural networks like Topaz Labs' Gigapixel AI and Dean, these tools have transformed this relic into an amazing 4K 60 frames per second masterpiece. It's like someone polished a dusty old mirror, and suddenly we can see straight through it with incredible clarity. In this video, there is the Statue of Liberty, standing tall and proud, welcoming newcomers to the land of opportunity. Just imagine the emotions of immigrants seeing it for the first time. From there, we sail into New York Harbor, which was basically the Ellis Island of its day. Ships are coming and going, loaded with people and goods from all over the world. It's a hive of activity, and you can almost smell the sea air and hear the bustle of the docks. Next up, there is Battery Park. If you've been there recently, you might recognize the John Erickson statue. It looks almost exactly the same today as it did back then. As we move uptown, we come across the famous Flatiron Building on 5th Avenue. This quirky triangular skyscraper was only 9 years old in 1911, but it had already become an iconic part of the New York skyline. It still looks the same as today. The fashion alone is worth watching. The men are decked out in long jackets and slacks, and every one of them is wearing a hat. All of the women are wearing dresses, with the upper classes fitted with frills and lace, and a hat to match. In 1911, there were no yellow cabs and Ubers. It's all about horse-drawn carriages, wagons and trolleys. A few automobiles are puttering around, probably owned by the ultra-rich, but they're the exception, not the rule. One of the coolest parts of this footage is seeing how some parts of the city have changed dramatically, while others have barely changed at all. Take 5th Avenue, for example. In 1911, relatively calm, with well-dressed folks strolling along at a leisurely pace. Fast forward to today, and it's a bustling tourist hotspot and shopping mecca. The Brooklyn Bridge is another spot that's gone through some changes. In the 1911 footage, there's tons of space for people to walk across. These days, it's a lot more crowded, with barely enough room to snap that perfect Instagram shot of the Manhattan skyline. And then there's Herald Square. In 1911, it was dominated by the Grand New York Herald Building. That building is long gone, replaced by a sea of restaurants and shops. It's still called Herald Square. What's really striking about this footage is the overall vibe of the city. Remember, this was filmed just 3 years before World War I. The world was on the brink of massive change, but you'd never know it from the casual, almost peaceful scenes we're witnessing. People are just going about their daily lives, completely unaware of the global upheaval that's just around the corner. It's also worth noting that this footage isn't just some random home movie. It was part of a project by a Swedish company called Svenska Biografterturn. These guys were sending camera crews all over the world to capture famous places on film. New York was just one stop on their grand tour. They also hit up Niagara Falls, Paris, Venice, and Monte Carlo. The footage was actually released to the public in 2018 by the Museum of Modern Art. The AI used doesn't just colorize the footage, it actually analyzes the images, recognizes details and structures, and fills in the blanks. It basically creates new frames to slip in between the existing ones, smoothing out the motion and making it feel more like you're watching a modern video rather than a flipbook. This enhanced footage gives us an unprecedented look at daily life in one of the world's greatest cities at a pivotal time in history. It's a reminder of how much has changed, how much has stayed the same, and how at our core people are people no matter what century we're in. In this video, there is 8th Avenue in the 1940s. The city had nearly 2 million people in Manhattan alone. The footage captures the old Madison Square Garden on 50th Street. Then, we turn onto the Grand 5th Avenue, looking uptown from 59th Street. Then there is a mystery crosstown street, possibly in Midtown, lined with classic New York walk-ups. This footage is special because it's what's called process plate material. They strapped cameras to cars and drove around, capturing the city from all angles, front, back, and side views. What's really wild is how people moved back then. Folks are jaywalking left and right, hanging out on median strips as cars whiz by. But there's not much traffic compared to today's New York. This footage was uploaded by Rick Perlinger. We're grateful for this incredible glimpse into the past. Watching this, you can't help but feel nostalgic. It's more than just an old film. It's a time travel that brings history to life. You can almost feel the energy of those bustling streets and see the fashion, the cars, and the architecture of a bygone era. This restored footage brings the past to life like never before. We start on Manhattan's west side at 12th Avenue and 42nd Street, where the hustle and bustle of the ferry terminal comes alive. Watch as passengers board the West Shore Railroad, the New York, Ontario, and Western Railway, and the Weehawken Ferry. The streets are teeming with people, showcasing the fabulous fashion of the era. From dapper gentlemen in fedoras to ladies in elegant dresses, it's a feast for the eyes. With enhanced 60 FPS quality and added sound design, you'll feel like you're right there in the heart of the Big Apple during its golden age. A nice leisurely ride through Central Park, captured from the back of a vehicle. The journey starts on West Drive, roughly from West 80th Street to 63rd Street, repeating this route 3 times. The footage begins with a view of the West 77th Street exit on the left side of Central Park. A wood-covered walkway comes into sight on the right, situated near the lake's Western Shore boat landing. As the camera moves, the Daniel Webster statue at Terrace Drive becomes visible. The expansive sheep meadow stretches out on the right, followed by a crosswalk at West 63rd Street. The scene then shifts north to the Winterdale Arch, offering a westward view. A couple is captured walking near the 77th Street exit. The Terrace Drive exit to West 72nd Street comes into the frame, followed by the 7th Regiment Memorial and the iconic tavern on the green. The footage then returns to West 77th Street, now facing east towards the lake. The familiar wood-covered walkway near the boat landing reappears. The journey concludes with Terrace Drive ending at Sheep Meadow, bringing the tour full circle. All these individuals we see, the couples strolling hand in hand, friends chatting, businessmen rushing to their next appointment, have likely passed on, except a few of the children. Their joys and sorrows, triumphs and failures all faded into history, just as ours will one day. The scene offers interesting glimpses into the era. Cars meander between lanes with casual disregard. Pedestrians are very relaxed crossing the road, and hardly anyone appears overweight. It's a striking contrast to our modern world. This film isn't just a window to the past, it's a beautiful, moving portrait of a moment in time, forever preserved for us to ponder and appreciate.